Alright, guys, welcome to Between the Whistle. I am Chase Sanders. Thank you for joining me for the first podcast. Today we're going to talk about NBA awards. We're going to talk about the finals between the Raptors and the Warriors. We're going to talk about a little bit about NFL, mainly the Browns and the Packers. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Gerald McCoy in Tampa Bay and that whole situation. So let's get started. First, let's take a look at the all-rookie teams. We got Luka Doncic, Trae Young, DeAndre Ayton, Jaren Jackson, and Marvin Bagley all rounding out the All-NBA rookie first team, which is a pretty solid rookie first team. Obviously, Trae Young and Luka Doncic got to be on there. DeAndre Ayton, first overall pick, had a good season with the Suns. Jaren Jackson had a really good season. Marvin Bagley played good. So let's take a look at the all-rookie second team. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for the Clippers, Colin Sexton, Landry Shamet, which was a pretty surprising one. Mitchell Robinson and Kevin Huerter. Landry Shamet and Kevin Huerter kind of coming out of nowhere there. Kevin Huerter turned into a really good shooter for the Hawks along with Trae Young. So bright future for the Hawks. I know some people want a little bit more out of Colin Sexton, but give him some time. He's going to develop a shot. He's going to be really good for the Cavs if he can do that. Some guys who are going to get votes or got votes and didn't make it. Michael Bridges, Kevin Knox, Josh Okogie, Alonzo Trier, some other guys. Let's take a look at the All-NBA defensive teams. Obviously, Paul George and Giannis are there. Rudy Gobert, Marcus Smart, Eric Bledsoe. Yeah, so looking at the All-NBA defensive team, it was pretty good. Paul George and Giannis up for MVP. You got to be on there. Rudy Gobert, always an awesome season for defense. Eric Bledsoe stepping up for the Bucks. Finally gets his full season there. Drew Holiday had a really good season for the Pelicans. Klay Thompson, Joel Embiid, Draymond, who didn't start out very good but finished the season pretty good. And Kawhi, who's been really good in the playoffs here, rounds out the All-NBA defensive teams. Now we can go take a look at the All-NBA teams, which is usually a more controversial. First team, I think everybody agrees with first team: Giannis, Harden, Curry, Paul George, and Jokic. So first team looks good. Let's take a look at second team: Embiid, Durant, Lillard, Kawhi, and Kyrie. Third team is where we get a little bit more. You can plug some guys, different guys in. Westbrook, Blake Griffin, who had a really awesome season for Detroit. LeBron, Rudy Gobert again popping up, and Kemba, who had a really good season, made the All-Star game. Some guys people wanted to see in there, Bradley Beal and Klay Thompson were the main ones. Other than that, not really a whole lot of guys you can throw in there. But Bradley Beal and Klay Thompson up there, who both lost money because they didn't make the All-NBA teams. Obviously, some people might have taken Braun out of there after his streak of not making first team was broken this year, but he still makes the All-NBA third team. So that's good for LeBron. LeBron gonna come out and have an awesome season next year. Okay, so now we're gonna take a look at the awards we're gonna have at the NBA Awards show. Obviously, there's MVP, Giannis, Paul George, and James Harden. Those are the three finalists for that. I'm gonna pick Greek Freak on that one, just because the way he finished the season. And I don't think Harden's going to get the votes again since he won last year. And PG obviously didn't finish the season as strong as he started. I mean, he just started out amazing. PG had a really good year. One of the best years of his career. Just couldn't quite finish it. NBA Rookie of the Year. That's where it gets a little interesting. I'm going to pick Trae Young, which I know not a lot of people are going to pick him. A lot of people are going to pick Luka, but I really just love the way Trae Young finish the season. Obviously, OU got to rock Trae Young on that one for me. Even though I do like Luka. Luka played really good. So now we get down to six man, one of my favorite awards. Obviously you got Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams both for the Clippers. If that makes sense. Domantas Sabonis for the Pacers. I'm gonna pick Lou Will just because that guy balls out every year. And man, he's crazy, and obviously he helped the Clippers fought the Warriors there first round of the playoffs. Man, they weren't going down without a fight. So that I'm gonna pick Lou Will for that one. Defensive Player of the Year. I'm gonna pick Paul George because man, even if that guy was having a bad offensive game, he was still killing it on defense. Always had to get his steals. One of the leaders in steals for the season. The other two finalists, Giannis and Rudy Gobert. Honestly, I think Giannis could get that one too, but for me, I'm picking Paul George. Most Improved, another one of my favorite ones, which I think a lot of guys should be the finalist for this. Buddy Hield should be up there, but De'Aaron Fox, D'Angelo Russell, and Pascal Siakam are your three finalists. I'm gonna pick Pascal just because to me he made the biggest leap out of all of them. Obviously, De'Aaron and D'Angelo both made really big improvements, but I'm taking Pascal just because how much of a leap he took. To me, he's most improved. Coach of the Year, I'm taking Doc Rivers just because he took that team that wasn't supposed to be very good and took them to the playoffs, and they fought the Warriors as hard as they could. Patrick Beverly had a pretty good first round. Okay, so now that we got all the awards done, we can go talk. Let's talk a little bit about the finals, Raptors and Warriors. Let's talk a little bit about Raptors and Bucks. I'm thinking it's probably a good thing the Raptors made the finals because if the Raptors figured out how to shut down Giannis after 2 games, obviously the Warriors would have, if not after 1 game. So, and if they're that easy to shut down just by taking one guy out, then that's not who we want playing the Warriors in the finals. So, good thing the Raptors made it. Kawhi can go ball out. And since we're talking about Kawhi, we can talk about, is Kawhi going to be the best player in the league if the Raptors win this series? And obviously, if the Raptors are going to win this series, then Kawhi is probably going to get MVP. So if we're talking about that, so I think if Kawhi gets MVP and the Raptors win this, then he's going to be the best player in the league for a year until they come out and he's just going to have to defend his title as best player, I think. And since we're talking about the Raptors, let's talk a little bit about Kyle Lowry. I didn't think Kyle Lowry got enough respect after the Bucks series, because I mean, man, that guy balled out in every fourth quarter on defense, which I didn't really expect from Kyle Lowry. I mean, nobody really talks about about his defense like they should, but I mean, every fourth quarter, this guy's coming up with clutch steals, and one of the reasons that Kawhi didn't have to be on the floor the whole fourth quarter of every single game. So, you know, I really like how Kyle Lowry played that series, and hopefully he can come do that against Curry or whoever he's going to guard in the finals. Good thing, 2 big things to note here. Raptors get the first 2 games at home, so Warriors got to go play in Toronto, so that's good for the Raptors. And obviously, the Raptors won both regular season games against the Warriors, so that's big. You're going to see if the Raptors can come out and just keep that momentum going, or if the Warriors are going to come back a little mad and try and show them that it's not about regular season, it's about the playoffs, and we're in the finals. So how much will KD play? Obviously, they said he's probably out for the first 2 games. But if the Warriors win those 2 games, do you even bring KD back? Does KD want to come back? And how much will that affect the free agency? Another thing, how big is this series for Curry? After a lot of people haven't really liked the way he's played in the playoffs, but man, if KD doesn't play and Curry just balls out and he wins MVP, then where does that put him amongst the all-time greats Is he going to be the best point guard ever? Is he going to be one of the best players ever? So really big series for Curry, especially since it's the finals. Obviously, this is a big finals for free agency. You're going to see what Kawhi does if they win or lose. And a lot of people saying KD's going to the Nets. Obviously, personally, me, I'd like to see Kawhi stay in Toronto because I think it's a pretty cool fit for Kawhi. Not a whole lot of media surrounding them, but awesome fan base, and I think he fits in really well there. Just like they get down and dirty on defense, and there's a great grind team, which I think is perfect for Kawhi. And then obviously, if KD plays, if they win, if he gets MVP, what's going to happen? Is he going to leave? Is he going to go to the Knicks or somewhere else? Some people say Lakers. So how will that affect if KD and Kyrie both go to the Knicks or see where Kimba goes and some of those guys? And then a lot of people saying Kawhi going to go to the Lakers if they lose. Let's talk about a couple other teams. We talk about a little bit about the Grizzlies because the Grizzlies are saying that if they can draft John Morant, which they probably will be able to, yeah, they're gonna look for trades for Mike Conley already, but they could still be using him to just be a mentor to John Morant. Maybe they want him to get more playing time. Maybe that's the reason behind it. Maybe they want to get some other young guys off of the trade for Mike Conley. But just a really weird situation there. Let's also talk a little bit about the Rockets because they're putting everybody on the table except for James Harden in trade talks right now. So Rockets just going all in this offseason because they just can't seem to get past the Warriors. So really big, going to be a big offseason for the Rockets. Let's talk a little bit about the Thunder, the future of the Thunder in terms of front office and coaching. Do you keep Billy Donovan around if the Thunder is not top three halfway through the season or even before halfway through the season? Do you fire him? I think, yeah, you do because he's had a lot of chances and they ain't really done much. And is this the last season for Sam Presti if they don't see significant improvement and get past the first round of the playoffs? And what does that mean for Westbrook and Paul George? So going to be a big season for the Thunder as well. Okay, so that's it for NBA. Let's talk a little bit about the NFL and what are the expectations for the Browns after they add Odell and Kareem Hunt and they got Jarvis Landry and they're stacking up on that defensive line. And going to be a big season for Baker Mayfield. It's a really important season for Baker Mayfield. Is he going to fall into that sophomore slump? Or is he going to come ball out and be the Baker that everybody knows? Season for Baker Mayfield. Yeah, big season for Baker Mayfield. Is he going to fall into the sophomore slump, or is he going to come out and be the Baker that we all know? How's he going to fit with Odell, and how Odell and Jarvis Landry are going to fit? And then obviously Callaway, they're saying he's making big improvements, and Rashard Higgins and David Njoku and all those guys. So big expectations for the Browns. They should at least go 10-6. And then I also want to talk about the Packers. How much better are the Packers after the draft and free agency, adding some guys on defense? I mean, obviously they don't need an amazing defense because you got Aaron Rodgers on the other side of the ball. You just need that defense to be able to get a few stops, put some pressure on the QB, get a 3-and-out every once in a while, keep the other team to a field goal, things like that, just to get Aaron Rodgers back on the field without giving up a touchdown every possession. Obviously adding Rashawn Gary and Darnell Savage, and then in free agency, Preston Smith and adding Preston Smith and Zaire Smith. big defensive improvement for the Packers, even after that little time. And then obviously, I think they'll have some good guys coming out of the undrafted free agents. And also, they added Billy Turner for the offensive line because Packers got to keep the offensive line healthy. And they drafted Elton Jenkins out of Mississippi State. And then, how much better is Jimmy Graham going to be? And there's Mercedes Lewis too. So big season for the Packers, I think, as well. I think they should go 10-6 as well. Let's talk a little bit about Gerald McCoy and why the Buccaneers decide to release him and then just go sign Ndamukong Suh for basically the same amount of money. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the Buccaneers. I think it makes a whole lot of sense for Gerald McCoy. You know, he wants to get out there and go win because he's been in Tampa Bay and they haven't improved at all since he's been there. And then, so they're saying the big front runners to get Gerald McCoy right now are the Browns and the Ravens. I think the Browns makes more sense to me than the Ravens does for Gerald McCoy because he said he wants to go to a contender, and I don't really see the Ravens being a contender right now in the NFL just with Lamar Jackson at QB. He's a young QB. Yeah, just so to me, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for for Gerald McCoy to go to the Ravens with Lamar Jackson at QB, and the Ravens lost a lot of dudes at the end of the season. So just it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to me for Gerald McCoy to go to the Ravens. And obviously the Browns, to me, look like they're in a little bit better of a spot right now. But that's it for today. Thank you guys for joining the first Between the Whistle podcast. See you later.